everybody. This review is definitely going to be confusing if you haven't seen any of the first 4 films of this franchise. So that being said, let's talk about Hell House LLC Lineage. This tells the story of Vanessa from Hell House LLC Lake of Fire. She was the reporter who was covered in Sycamore after the opening of Hell House LLC. That's a lot to say, but that's kind of important to know going into that. And it tells the story of her, the aftermath of what happened to the cast of the Sycamore, and her connection to the house. Now, going right in, like I said before, if you haven't seen any of these movies at all, you won't understand a single thing going into it. And that can be a negative or a positive for some. It's positive more for me because I enjoy these movies and I'm kind of a fan of this. But going right into my pros, and the first pro I do want to say is I liked the story. I liked the characters for the most part. I also liked how they explained and tied everything into the lore. And that worked for me for the most part. I like that. But that's the only pro I can unfortunately give this movie without going... Oh, and I think it was shot really well too. Even though it wasn't found footage, I actually like they did that. Second, I will say, is it goes in a very interesting direction that if they go on further, it will stay a pro. But going right into my mix...
I wanted to add here that I also think the makeup effects when it came to the dead people was done really well in this movie. Probably the best in the franchise so far, hopefully.
I want to say, there was one sequence in this movie that I kind of got a little bit annoyed with because there was Vanessa was a former reporter and they had a new reporter coming in and she got someone to go somewhere with her, and once they got to that somewhere, she did not listen to who she brought to that place for a certain reason, and that kind of annoyed me because I'm like, how are you going to that kind of thing and not listen to majority of what they say? Like, that kind of bothered me. I'm like, other than that, her character was fine with me, but oh my god, did not listen. And I'm like, why? That is my only...
Sorry to keep adding these, but this movie is just so much. I completely forgot to mention this, but the masks were also weird in this movie. I say masks because there was one scene where it just did not look anything like the other movies and looked really bad, and other scenes it looked fine like the other movies, and masks looked better or worse than certain other scenes, if that makes sense.
Mix. I actually do have a negative, and the negative is easy going to be, now the first 4 were found footage styles, so this was forgiven, which they didn't really show any kills. But this one was not found footage, so they had no reason for this. But they only showed 1 kill in this entire movie. And that is crazy to me because you don't have the excuse that it's not found footage. And that just bothered me. It just did. That was annoying. But that is really going to be the end. Let's talk about some spoilers, which is going to be a majority of what this is because it is a bunch of lore, and that's all it really is. But I enjoyed it as a fan of this franchise. And the first thing I really want to touch on is that ending. Did anyone see the connection between Vanessa, and Mitch from Hell House LLC? I was not expecting that bomb to drop. Of everything else I was kind of calling out before, that one took me by surprise. And if they end on this note, that has to be the worst ending of any movie of this franchise. Hopefully they do a 6 and actually tie it up better, because I swear to God, if they end up on that is a terrible ending. And also the touch of Beverly. Beverly was mentioned, I believe, in the 4th one for the first time. There's so much lore in this, it's insane. Does anyone else kind of feel like that they're gonna expand on that or just leave it at that if there's another one? Or I don't know how people kind of feel about that. Anyone else kind of, what do you think they're gonna do? Did anyone others see the connection of the lineage? I thought that was an interesting touch to expand off of Lake of Fire when that guy ended the house and like sealed the gates. I thought that was interesting to expand on. I liked they expanded it, but it feels kind of a bit weird as a story just how that kind of connects to the cult and Tully. And speaking of, did anyone else see that guy being a cult member? I did not see that. Maybe I was blind this entire time, but did anyone else see that guy being a cult member? And just how he tied into the Carmichael's death and how the demise, how he just was a part of that entire thing. And even the two girls before, like, did not expect that guy to be there, but like, honestly, that was a good one. So overall,
And to expand on what I was talking about earlier, how are you going to convince a priest to come to the Carmichael Manor that you know is haunted and not listen to him when he says, don't do that, don't do this, don't do this, but you just continue to interact when he says to knock because I'll make things worse? Like, come on.
I will say, this movie, there's a lot going on, but if you do enjoy this franchise and the lore, I would say check it out, because at the end of the day, it's a solid Hell House LLC movie. There's a lot going on, and that ending can definitely be a big punch if they end out on this note with this franchise. So comment down below if you've seen The Lineage or if you're gonna go check it out at all, and I will see you guys soon with a new updated ranking of this franchise. I think you might be surprised by how I rank these movies going forward. Totally different ranking from my first one.